The Late Showgram podcast with Jim Richards is on the iHeartRadio app. It's The Late Showgram with Jim Richards on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
All of that is true. That person is paid to tell the truth. One of the bad boys of talk radio, just here. I guess, man, this is where they put the bad boys, the overnight show, man. It couldn't, the daytime couldn't hold me, man. I was too big for it. I broke out of the daytime. And they're like, what do we do with this guy? And they just put him on the late night show. Bad boy of talk radio. Bad boy for life. That's what Jim Richards is. All right, let's take a look at some of the headlines.
Jim Richards muses the news. Some good-looking news in there, Jim.
And Tony, can you also try to find me losing my voice in the first half hour? Because I feel fine now and nothing's happened. My voice hasn't cracked. I'm maintaining voice consistency, I guess is what you would call it. And maybe I don't even. It seems like just a dream. Like I had a dream and my voice was cutting out, and that maybe I'd have to go to bed early and just abandon the show. And it sounds like that's something that you couldn't do. Like a responsible broadcaster wouldn't just get up and go to bed. But you just try me. You just try me, because I would. All right. You heard in the news there this terrible tit for tat that Canada is exercising a agreement that we have in the United States, and the United States would like to extradite the COO of Huawei to the United States. And then there's this tit for tat where China has taken a couple of Canadians, and now we sit back and we watch in horror with what happens to these two Michaels, with one of them with trial details right now.
Reporting that we're hearing already is that Michael Spavor has been given an 11-year sentence for essentially spying.
It is all happening at a detention center in Dandong, which is at the North Korea border. Of course, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig were arrested in 2018, just days after Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou was apprehended in Vancouver. CTV's Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier is following tonight's rapid-fire developments. And Joyce, the trial itself only lasted 2 hours back in March. Just as fast tonight. What can you tell us about this verdict and sentencing?
Well, quite a surprising verdict. Lisa. Michael Spavor has been found guilty of espionage and illegally providing state secrets, sentenced to 11 years in prison. So that part is not surprising, but confiscation of personal property and deportation. Now, that is the question. It's unclear on the sequencing. I was talking to somebody at the minister's office. They're going to look into that. Does that mean that he gets to leave the country? Does he get deported right away? When would that happen? Now, we know that China's highest court will have to review the case. That's what they do in China. Is it that China wanted to expedite this process? Was there a negotiation between the Americans and the Chinese to allow this to happen? We know that yesterday Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister spoke to the Secretary of State, who was told, and I was told by a source, that they were in mode of they wanted to settle this. The Americans want to settle this. So perhaps this comes after the negotiations between the Americans and Beijing.
Very surprising, this deportation. Again, we don't have a lot of details on what exactly it means, but it certainly appears as if China seems to be willing to negotiate on some level. That was not the case, though, it seems, just last night in another Chinese courtroom. Joyce, tell us, first of all, about that. And is there any update on Michael Kovrig?
Well, we don't know. We know that Michael Kovrig had his trial. Lisa, it lasted 1 day behind closed doors. No, he had no access to a lawyer. We don't know when his sentencing and when his verdict will take place. Expect it to be maybe a little bit harsher than the sentence on Michael Spavor because he was a former diplomat. So we don't know yet when that will happen, but it should happen soon. If there is a negotiation with the Americans going on right now, and this may be the case, then maybe there is some light at the end of the tunnel for Michael Kovrig as well.
And hopefully all of this can go away and the two Michaels can come back. And because, Aaron O'Toole yesterday, yesterday, had said that we should consider maybe not going to the Beijing Olympics. And I don't think that that's too crazy. I'm not sure that there's any good example of anything being accomplished by boycotting Olympics in times past, other than you're just saying, hey, we don't stand for that. Do we end up punishing our own more because our athletes have been diligently training? Listen, those arguments happen all the time when people are threatening to boycott for one reason or another, but I don't know. Maybe China shouldn't even have given the Olympics. How about that? Meanwhile, the Taliban are taking over more provinces in Afghanistan, and Canada continues to try to get some of the translators out.
City after city is falling back into Taliban control. Its fighters brazenly bragging about the capture of capitals and police headquarters. The speed of their takeover sparking concerns the country may collapse within months.
The number of civilian casualties has already been mounting, and now it's reached a level that could be calamitous.
The fierce fighting has forced tens of thousands from their homes and left at least 4,400 wounded as access to hospitals and clinics gets cut off.
Staff cannot work, cannot access the clinics, because hospitals are sometimes in the middle of the front lines.
For women, the freedom of dress, education, and ability to work all being rolled back in areas controlled by the Taliban.
No programs like schools and education and those programs that serve women, those are just way too sensitive and dangerous to run there. So those have all stopped in areas under Taliban rule.
Taliban experts say the targeted attacks against women are tactics to demoralize the population and ultimately decrease their will to fight back.
It's easier to disrupt way of life than to take over cities and spaces and control them and make sure the government forces are not coming back.
As the risk increases, so does the pressure on Canada to speed up the evacuation of Afghans who have helped Canadian troops. Right now, they need a passport, PCR test, and complicated paperwork. Bureaucratic hurdles the immigration minister says he's working with the Afghan government to ease.
We are continuing to work to reduce every possible barrier so that as many Afghan nationals can be safely evacuated.
At least 3 flights carrying refugees have arrived in Canada. The government won't say how many people have been resettled, but veterans fear hundreds are at risk of being left behind.
So, as this country continues to try to, from coast to coast, incentivize people who might be vaccine hesitant or anti-vaxxers, more and more people are looking at different perks.
That cool drink on a sunny patio will soon be a treat reserved for the fully vaxxed in Quebec.
Of what the application would look like.
The province unveiled some details of its vaccine passport. As of September 1st, staff at restaurants, bars, gyms, and festivals will have to scan the QR code that serves as Quebecers' proof of immunization to grant them access.
To avoid closing activities or businesses, the best way is vaccination.
Staff themselves won't be forced to get their shots to keep their jobs, but will have to continue to wear masks and distance. The deployment will start with a pilot project in a restaurant and a gym in coming days.
It's better to scan a vaccination passport than having to shut down or lock down again.
For many, loosened restrictions have ended months of isolation. For this cross-border couple, it's brought a chance to finally touch and hug.
Okay. It's really hard to believe that today actually is here because we've been waiting for so long.
But despite high vaccination rates, the Delta variant is fueling a COVID spike. And so to try to rule out a return to closed doors, many Quebec businesses back the passport. Some customers say it goes too far. An anti-passport protest is planned for the weekend.
C'est ton choix. On est dans un pays libre.
We're in a free country, she says. We should have the choice not to get vaccinated and to go to a restaurant. Today, the province also said someone tried to bribe a healthcare worker to get a fake document. Several details still need to be worked out. For instance, what kind of proof of vaccination can someone from Ontario show to dine here? But the health minister says bottom line is people need to get vaccinated, and he thinks this just may be the boost they need to do it.
In Ontario, one of the things that the health minister had said is that these passports is going to be a QR code in Quebec, that they are subject to fraud. But so is the document that the Ontario government has given out already. When you get double vaccinated, most people have received an email, and with that email comes an attachment saying that you, Joe Smith, have been vaccinated, double vaccinated, if that is the case. And you can print that out. I've got it as the screensaver on my phone, but it doesn't necessarily have anything that would stop it from being vaccinated. So they're saying basically, well, you know, the document that we're already providing should suffice because anything else would be subject to fraud. Well, I don't know that a QR code is subject to fraud. Certainly, if one person used somebody else's QR code, a lot of people could do that. But if I don't know. I think in the case, if you wanted to just do something, have some sort of QR code that would almost be like a temporary driver's license when you lose your driver's license, or in the midst of having it mailed out to you, you'd have like a piece of paper issued by the province wherever you are, and it would have your name on it, and you could kind of like hold that up against your driver's license or your photo ID. That would be an easy thing to do, but the province of Ontario is deciding not to do it. And everybody's like, oh, we live in a free country, and you're saying that we can't go to this restaurant? Yeah. Same way you can't go to that restaurant unless you wear a shirt. Or for the longest time, you couldn't go to that restaurant unless you wore a mask while you walked to the table. More in a moment.
Now back to the Late Showgram with Jim Richards on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
Did you know a lot of these liberals in the mainstream media in the middle of COVID were saying all sorts of nice things about Andrew Cuomo, saying that they really respected the way he was handling COVID-19. How could that possibly be true? Because the allegation that the guy might have been sexually harassing women while on the job, while governor of New York. You can't be someone who sexually harasses people and makes their workplace impossible and at the same time do a good job at a certain portfolio, can you? Doesn't seem possible to me. You can't do a good job in a certain area of what you've been elected to do, in this case COVID-19, and be a pervert. At least that's what was being said today on social media by people on the right who were like, why isn't Trevor Noah apologizing for saying that he is now a Cuomo-sexual because he admired the way he handled COVID? The idea that because you said one guy handled COVID okay, you're not allowed to pat him on the back for doing that. Well, the reality still might be true that he treated women awfully. As you guys know where I'm going with this, right? Andrew Cuomo resigned.
The way Andrew Cuomo tells it, he just wants to help people.
The best way I can help now is if I step aside.
The less flattering truth is that he has run out of time, friends, and options. So a week after a damning report that he sexually harassed 11 women, Cuomo has written his own eulogy to his political career. Still defiant about the accusations.
It's not about the truth.
But contrite toward his accusers.
This is not to say that there are not 11 women who I truly offended. There are. And for that, I deeply, deeply apologize.
At least one remains unconvinced.
He didn't take responsibility. He didn't really apologize. He almost still had the attitude as though he is the victim.
Good to see you guys. In fact, Cuomo is still trying to portray his actions as misunderstood attempts at old world charm.
I didn't realize the extent to which the line has been redrawn.
But has it been redrawn?
Unwanted groping, kisses.
The Attorney General's report describes a pattern of behavior that has long been inappropriate. And lawyer for one of the victims, Gloria Allred, says it should be no surprise to Cuomo where that line is.
He knows this. He knew it when he did it.
Just a year ago, Cuomo was seen as a future presidential candidate. And today his resignation included a self-congratulatory list of accomplishments, as if appealing to history to remember him for more than resigning in disgrace.
Another resignation in Manitoba.
After almost 10 years as leader of our party and more than 5 years as our province's premier, I believe that now is the time for a new leader and a premier to take our province forward. We ran a clean government with a real integrity that was scandal-free, and I am proud of that.
And CTV's Manitoba Bureau Chief Jill Makashon joins me now. Jill, this seemed to come right out of the blue today. And who leaves in the middle of a mandate?
Lisa, this is Brian Pallister, and this goodbye is typical of the man who will leave as he's led on his own terms. After nearly 30 years in politics, he said it's time to go, but he's also under pressure to do so. His party is tanking in the polls, and though he said he's led a scandal-free government, he's been criticized for his handling of the COVID crisis. And this summer, he angered Indigenous leaders and lost his Indigenous Relations Minister over comments he made about colonization. Expect Brian Pallister to stick around until at least October when he hosts Canada's premiers. But Manitobans will likely see a new progressive conservative leader within the next 6 months.
And meanwhile, with fires raging still in parts of Canada, you look to places around the world with that damning report about climate change yesterday, and you take a look at what's going on in Greece. Some of these pictures have been quite impressive. Ferries moving away from, if you can imagine a ferry pulling away from an area that has so much forest, and all of that, which seem like everywhere you look is a raging forest fire as people try to make their way out of it.
The Greek Prime Minister said his country is facing a natural disaster of unprecedented dimensions.
Half of Evia Island has been left scorched and smoldering. Vast sweeps of forest and farmland destroyed. A burned-out disaster zone. Thousands of people have fled. Others say they're afraid but refuse to leave, sleeping in shifts, willing to risk whatever it takes. If we leave, for sure, our homes will be burned, he says.
1,000 firefighters, planes, and extra equipment have been flown in from other countries. Too late for the villagers who live around here, who are feeling very angry and abandoned by their government.
On this slope, a lifetime of olive trees gone. People in the village of Agia Ana were told to leave. Many refused, distraught that no firefighters, no water bombers came to help them.
We hear on the radio, Ayana's being evacuated. We step on it to save our grandma, and we come here, the fire's already up there. And nobody said to evacuate the elderly, nobody.
We knew that if we all evacuated, there wouldn't be anyone to sort of save the village.
Helping Greece has become a Europe-wide endeavor. 20 countries have sent teams to the island working in extreme heat and billowing smoke.
It's not easy to get it under control. We are doing our best.
In a televised address, the Greek Prime Minister said firefighters were in a battle with supernatural powers, and he apologized for letting people down. Wind, bone-dry conditions, and the longest heat wave in decades are feeding this destruction. It's been more than a week, and thick smoke is still pouring off this island.
This resort town, Limni, was surrounded by fire. It was saved, but the only way out was by boat, and that's how many people were able to get to safety.
And finally, let's take a look at the story of an individual in Toronto who was killed while in jail, apparently by guards. And a second look now might give us the real story.
Suleiman Fakiri was detained at this correctional facility for over a week. He died in a span of about 10 minutes.
There's a trauma. There's a pain. My brother was a beautiful man. He wasn't just Suleiman with schizophrenia. He was Suleiman who's an uncle, who's trilingual, who's a gifted intellect.
His family fought for years for answers. Today they got them. A new report revealed the events leading to his death include prone position restraint, blunt impact trauma, handcuffing, application of a spit hood, and exposure to pepper spray. The chief forensic pathologist said Fakiri had an enlarged heart and his violent struggle with jail guards were key factors in his death. The coroner's office had previously said the cause was unascertainable.
This report no longer leaves any doubt or any ambiguity or mystery into the beating death of Suleiman Fakiri. Now it's for the OPP to do their job.
Provincial police say they are reviewing the report, which states Fakiri's schizophrenia had worsened significantly while waiting for a transfer to a proper facility.
Can't even really call it an intervention because there was too much use of physical force, and in this case, deadly force. Totally unacceptable.
Advocates say prison was not the place for Fakiri.
And countless others who've been locked up and killed by this barbaric system when they needed care, we need to do better.
The family is looking to the OPP for possible criminal charges against the guards involved in this tragedy.
So there you go. Hopefully some better news for that family in the near future. Okay, still to come on the showgram, we're going to hear from Richard Krause on what he thinks of Quentin Tarantino not helping out his mom. That is a little bit later on. We'll play a game with Richard Krause as well. And does Eric Elper know this week's music news? I'm Jim Richards. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Showgram podcast. It's very easy to do. All you have to do is go to the iHeartRadio app, download that on your phone, or do it online, or do it wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Like and subscribe, and then resubscribe, and then resubscribe, etc., etc., etc. David Cooper is on the way as the Showgram continues right here on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
You're listening to The Late Showgram with Jim Richards on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
This is the Showgram. Hi, everyone. And David, how are you tonight?
I'm here with you. Things are great. How could things be bad when I'm here with you?
That is such a good point. Such a great point. What did you get up to today? You're still on vacation mode. You're back in your home city of Toronto. If people don't know, David lives in New York, but you're here for a couple of weeks.
Oh, just a week and a half. I'm here. My girlfriend Miranda left yesterday, so it's my non-sexual Rumspringa. That's when the Amish leave the nest and go crazy, and then they decide whether they want to go back to the nest. I'm gonna go back to the next nest, but things are good. Yeah, I just hung out with friends all day. Really. Jim, just hung out with friends and then came home and started preparing for this show. What a day. I slept in. I was up until 7 in the morning, but I saw something on the TV, and by the TV, I mean the YouTube, that I'm really excited to tell you about, Jim.
Oh, I can't wait to find out about it.
Maybe I should save this one. We could just ease into it. It's a story that I think a lot of people will be familiar with, but these YouTubers blew the lid on it and it's going crazy. And it starts, and I hope you haven't said this on the show, Jim, but it starts with McDonald's ice cream machines always being broken. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware of this?
We were going to interview a guy who fixed them a while ago. I'm not sure whatever happened to that, but yeah, I'm aware that they break very easily and that they have been randomly broken. Yes.
Yeah, well, so it's all. I mean, people on the internet have been going wild with this conspiracy, like what's going on. But then this guy, I'm coming from Silicon Valley. I worked in tech for 10 years. So you leave it to a nerd to write some app that used data from like Uber Eats or something to figure out what percentage of McDonald's have broken ice cream machines at any given time.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's called McBroken. Now, this is not the guy who blew the lid on the story. This is just a nerd who likes ice cream and wanted to map it out. But he found that, and the number is astonishing, 15% of ice cream machines at McDonald's are broken at any given time in the U.S. The first time that numbers has leaked or has been found anywhere, because I guess McDonald's wants to keep that a secret. But it's just, the story gets more fascinating as you peel away layers of the onion. I almost want to save it for the next segment because I know people at home are really, really interested and they're going to stick around for this one, Jim. It's very exciting.
Okay, so are we saving it for the next segment? If you want, we can.
Yeah, maybe we should, because
okay.
I'm not going to be able to get it out. You know what? Why not? Let's just jump into it now. Let's...
yeah, do it.
Let's jump into it now. So people on the internet have long thought that these things were like there was a meme about it, and it's a joke on the internet, but people didn't actually know that it was true. Let's put it this way: is if industrial kitchen equipment had a 15% failure rate, Jim, I don't think you'd ever eat fast food. Like, yeah. This video I was watching, I think these things are built to a failure rate of like 0.03%. So why do these ice cream machines, why are they always down? And it gets really crazy, Jim.
So it's not that 15% of them are broken. It's that your machine, if your machine is working right now, there's a chance that sometime within the next little while, it's going to be part of that 15% when they fix one of the other ones or something like that. Is what you're saying.
At any given time in the U.S., 15% are broken. Okay. And are in need of repair.
And that's a fact that McDonald's has been willing to give out.
No, that's what this nerd who built a map. He got the data from Uber Eats. He built an application to log.
Okay.
Yeah, to look at every McDonald's on, I think Uber Eats or one of these things, and see which one had ice cream unavailable, and that's how he got the data.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. And then so this got picked up, and the explanation was, well, the machines have a 4-hour cleaning cycle, and sometimes at night, employees forget to press the clean button. So in fact, they press it during the day, and then the machine's down, and that's what's going on. They're just telling you it's broken because it's easier to tell you that as a customer, but really it's cleaning. And then the story kind of died. But that was not true at all. The same company that makes the machines for McDonald's makes them for every other fast food chain, and those machines are always working. So there's something specific.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's where this story that I watched was picked up. Now, I was watching this.
But hold on, is it a different machine, or it's just that the company that makes them for McDonald's makes one specifically for McDonald's, and they make other machines for these other companies?
It's a different machine. So if you have a McDonald's franchise, let's say you need a hamburger machine and a McNugget machine and all the equipment, there's always options. Like McDonald's, when you sign the franchise contract, it's a limited options, but there are options. You can go to this one fast food equipment supplier or another one. But with ice cream, there's only one company and one machine, and they special make it for McDonald's. It's the same company that makes it for Wendy's, for Harvey's, for all these companies, but they have a special model for McDonald's, and you are contractually obligated to buy it as a franchise holder, as an owner of a McDonald's. So it starts to get really weird. Okay, Jim?
All right, I'm with you.
All right, are you on the edge of your seat right now? Or
I'm on the edge of my seat.
You better be, because if your voice kicks out, I'm going to be telling this story for, another 3-4 hours tonight? So.
Yes.
I was listening to you at the beginning of the show, and your voice was going in and out, and I'm like, oh, God.
I was not sure. It's come back, so I don't know that I've ever had that before. I've had my voice, sound like that and then slowly go, but I've never had it, go and crackle and then be okay.
Well, there you have it. It's come back to rescue the listenership from having to listen to me cover for you last minute with zero preparation. All right, so It turns out these machines break all the time, and they have a very cryptic error codes, and so they have to call the company to fix them. But it gets really crazy because the other machines at other companies, the non-McDonald's machines, aren't broken all the time. It's just the McDonald's machines. And then it gets even crazier. This company, I don't want to name them because they got big pockets, but they 25% of their recurring revenue is from machine repairs. Okay?
Oh.
Yeah. And McDonald's doesn't seem to care for two reasons. One, this company has been a partner of McDonald's for like many, many tens of years, almost since the beginning of the company and its franchising. But also, the money gets spent by the franchise owners. It doesn't come out of McDonald's pocket. And so this person did all the research, and they found the manual, and the machines are impossible to use, and only really a licensed technician from this company, this big public company, can come and repair them. So it's basically a conspiracy to get this company revenue by having constant streams of repairs. But the reason the machines are down is because they're $600 an hour. So some of these franchise owners are like, screw this, I'm not paying this company to fix this thing. Or they haven't got around to it yet. So that's the conspiracy. But then it gets even crazier. Like there's this independent company that's trying to make a little device to be able to fix these machines. Mm-hmm. And that company's being sued by McDonald's, but that company's like trying to take this thing to the Supreme Court with all kinds of like right to repair stuff. Anyway, that was my 6 a.m. half-baked reading of the story. But basically, these YouTubers solved the McDonald's ice cream saga, and it's just monopolistic capitalism that is the reason that your machine is down.
So when you buy the machine, you almost have to buy a service contract as well, where that manufacturer is going to be the only person who can fix it, correct?
Bingo. And that company has an incentive to keep them broken because it's a huge stream of revenue, and they sell these machines to other fast food organizations, but they're not locked in by contract. Like Wendy's can choose whatever distributor they want, and so they make good machines.
Yeah, go ahead.
They make good machines for Wendy's, but they don't make good machines for McDonald's because franchisees have to use them.
Why would McDonald's? Is McDonald's getting a cut of the repair?
Well, we don't know that. That would maybe. I mean, but
one would
McDonald's
wonder if they're not in the. Let's take a break here, but I mean, you would think at a certain point they would be caring about the best interest of their franchise holders, and be concerned about this.
You'd think?
Yeah. David Cooper is with us. I'm Jim Richards.
You're listening to The Late Showgram with Jim Richards on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
We're going to try to do an interview about that in the next couple of weeks, about that story about McDonald's that David just shared with us. It's pretty interesting. Any final words on the McDonald's story, David?
Well, I'm the thing to watch now is this little tech company in San Francisco is trying to make this process easier for McDonald's franchisees. Is that the word? Franchise owners. But the kitchen equipment company is trying to sue them out of business, and this company is taking them to court and winning. And so it looks like franchise owners in the coming months may have the right to repair their own machines and get the private schematics, and they may be enabled by a small little tech company to basically stop ripping off franchise owners over this whole ice cream scandal. So
you'll be able to get an ice cream by the time February rolls around and nobody wants an ice cream any longer.
I love McFlurries, Jim. I figured out, I have a theory about
what? I'm going to order one right now. And,
you better.
I'll see if I can get one by the time our segment's over.
Get an Oreo one. The reason they're so good is because soft serve is like a deflated liquid. It's like a slurry, and then the machine aerates it. And the reason you don't get crunchy toppings inside of soft serve is because when you try to blend it in, the whole thing deflates. Kind of like when you've got a dough and then you start rolling it, it sort of deflates, right?
Yeah.
McDonald's has patented technology that's part of this machine. Part of why this machine's so good, I mean, when it's working, is because it blends crunchy ingredients in soft serve without deflating it. And that's why McFlurries are great. I was at Dairy Queen the other day and I had an Oreo ice cream and it was a little deflated and soupy, because they blend the Oreo in there. So that's why I'm a big fan of the McFlurry.
Okay, I'm going to get a McFlurry. I'm going to get the regular size. And I'm going to get 2 of them.
Our listeners out there are just this segment is called. Thank you. This segment is called Jim Orders McDonald's. It is
and we'll see if
segment.
they can show up here before. Hold on. Do I have 2 of them? No, I just have 1 of them. What about the Score McFlurry? Looks good. Allergy alert. I'm going to take that one.
Tony, if you could just mute Jim's mic in the control room over there, that'd be great. I can carry the rest of this.
And then I just ordered, and it should be here in 15 minutes. So we'll tell people that one's clearly not broken, so I'm not sure what point I proved there at all, other than ordering on the air, which is really fascinating. So, David, when you go out with your friends, like who are these friends? Are these high school friends? Are they former colleagues? Or who are your friends who are still in Canada?
Yeah, well, I don't have any. No, my friend Natalie, who was on the show the other night, she's a Toronto-based comedian, and she brought me to a hangout with comedians. I used to do a lot of stand-up, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, but she told them what I do, and I said I got to leave to go do this show, and they were just baffled. How on earth do you come up with things to talk about each night for an hour? And I said, that's not even a bad week. A bad week's when I'm covering for Jim and I got to do 20 hours. And I said, it's like anything else. It's like learning to ride a bike. So what did I do when I came home? I started looking through random lists of questions, trying to jog my brain. And then I don't usually use the materials that I look through, but they help kind of go through my brain about stories. And one of them was like, and this is probably against my better judgments, but one of them was like something about, whoa, what's the worst coworker? So I was thinking maybe we could talk about bad coworkers quickly.
I just want to say one thing. I always like, I'm not trying to say anything bad about comics, but I'm always amazed at how,
please do.
They're always
please
like, I just think that people who are on the radio, probably are kicking out more material than someone who is a comic could kick out in a long time. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I just think when you're in the process of kind of writing and thinking about stuff and you're reading the newspaper all the time and you have to spit something out, you're more likely to force yourself to come up with different things. Anyway,
it's a different skill. Like, comics will come up with a 20-minute set and they'll do the same thing every night
for an hour
for 6 months. And so it's highly honed, it's really tight, but there's no wiggle room. I mean, really good ones can play within that, but then there's the whole like conversational side. And I think doing radio is more like doing crowd work, more like interacting with strangers on the fly. Half the funny stuff I say to strangers on the fly, I've said before in some iteration. Yeah. But like picking those pieces, using the bag of tricks to kind of make something funny in the moment that feels like it came from nowhere. I mean, that's just a difference.
Well, I guess that's kind of my point. When you talk to some of these comics who you really have a lot of respect for and are very funny, and you're right, they've honed that craft and they've worked on their 20 minutes and they probably do the same 20 minutes for 6 months a year or whatever. When you get them on the air and you try to riff with them, sometimes it's just they don't know what to do. They're just kind of lost because they don't have the ability to like, hey, can you give me the topics up front so I can write around them? And sometimes it's a mess. But anyway, coworkers.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I want to address this really quickly because my comedian friends used to make fun of me that, like, the second I was in a conversation, like, they thought I was funny, but, like, I could not write and I could not memorize and I could not rehearse. Yeah. And so I would just do awful stand-up, and that's why I'm a terrible, terrible stand-up comic. But worst coworkers, I thought maybe people could call in and share their stories.
I hate to go back again.
Oh, God.
A lot of people are like that, right? I mean, like you, who's funny on his feet and very conversationally funny, and you're kind of, beating up on yourself about your inability to write. I mean, a lot of people have written that way by just kind of like writing down all of those things and then putting them into a story. So anyway, I think you think that you're bad at writing, but you're probably not.
Why don't you say the worst coworker thing, and then I'll say actually, to go back to that.
All right, the worst coworker.
No, I want to actually address something before we go to worst coworkers.
Yeah. All right.
I used to use the stage to write, so I would get up there with I don't know, maybe half a joke, and I would see if I could turn it into something, and then I'd record it, and then that would be my bit. That would be my starting place to write. I would just sit at a table with a pen and a blank piece of paper. And some of my best jokes were written that way. They were just half-baked ideas. I was in a really great mood, and I was really having a great night. I'd get up on stage, and I'd turn it into an ad-lib 10 minutes, and that was the starting place for anything that I wrote that was ever good. That was a starting place. But that's unusual, I would say. Called using the stage to write.
I really miss the bad coworker segment. That's what I miss. Would have been great. Why don't we do that when we come back, David?
Yeah, but anyone who has a bad coworker or a worst coworker story, why don't you call us? It's 1-855-633-1010. That is 1-855-633-1010. Otherwise, we're going to debate the merits of conversational versus prepared comedy for about 14 hours.
So who is a bad Tony, do you want to nominate a bad coworker that's not me? That in a moment. David Cooper is with us. I'm Jim Richards, and this is the Late Showgram.
Listen live and local to The Late Showgram with Jim Richards. Weeknights starting at midnight on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.